as you do your last-minute holiday shopping and make your last-minute giving for the year as well. Others are hard at work trying to scam you out of your hard-earned cash and steal your personal information. That's all part of many holiday scams that are in play by scam artists all across the U.S., including those targeting us here in Greater West Bloomfield. So, how do you get all this done in a short time period before the big holidays without putting your money and your information at risk? Here with more tips on all of that is Nakia Mills from the Better Business Bureau of Detroit and Eastern Michigan. Nakia, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Happy to have you with us to talk about this. It's an important topic as shoppers in our local area in Greater West Bloomfield are going out to our local malls to do their last-minute shopping, are looking for charities to give their money to donate at the end of the year, maybe to help out a little bit during tax season. But there's so much opportunity given that a lot of what people are doing nowadays during this season is online for their information to be out there. So what are some of the common ways that we can start off talking about that people often encounter holiday scams and charity scams this time of year?
Right, especially ever since Giving Tuesday, the charity scams, this time of year, we have it in our hearts. We want to give back to those who are less fortunate. But like you said in your intro, scammers also know this. So they try to do little tricks, to get us to give to their fake charities. So they'll use maybe an acronym that's similar to a charity you're familiar with, or they might use, these emotional photos of very sad looking children that desperately need help. But you always want to pay attention to the details. And especially if you see, a post on social media or someone's inboxing you to give. And even sometimes when people create, those crowdfunding charities, you want to really read the fine print, see where it says that money is going, make sure that a significant percentage is actually going to the charity and not just to someone's pocket who just made a fake account basically to steal your money.
And that's what's interesting too, is because these are being seen on social media, or they're in your email inbox, or even to some of the more elaborate scams on the charity scam side. They've made entire websites that tell these harrowing stories. They include the pictures. They look so realistic. So from a consumer's standpoint, what should they be looking out for that maybe raises an eyebrow? Some alarm bells go off and they start to question the legitimacy of these so-called organizations.
So you're going to hear me probably say this a lot in this conversation. The first thing you want to do is slow down. This time of year, most of these scams are counting on us rushing. We're moving around. We're not paying attention. So closely read the URL. That's very important. One, it should have an S, and that way you know it's secure before you put any of your information in there. Also in that URL, make sure it's really the exact letters. What we see a lot is the letter O. A scammer will change that to a 0. It looks very similar. It takes a lot of patience for us to notice that difference. Or maybe it has the letter L. The scammer might use an I. Again, they look so similar. So you just really want to slow down, do some reading, go find their, terms and conditions, find their privacy policy. How are they using your information? Mostly you'll notice this site is going to be missing something. Real charities have all sorts of information. They have impact reports. There's so many details that you can read about how they're using your funds. So these scammers, you start noticing it's not as much detail. It's a little bit more vague and more about just tugging at your heartstring with no meat.
And then on the consumer side, as people are doing their shopping, I'd imagine very similar warning signs that they'd see on maybe some of these independent shopping sites, or those that are designed to look like some of the big box retailers or online sellers as well. So in those cases, what are maybe some of the differences that people should be looking out for on the consumer end of these scams versus those that are targeting people giving to charities and nonprofits?
Some of them, like you said, are very similar. No matter what you're doing on any website, you want to make sure it's secure. You want to make sure you're really at the URL you thought you were going to. Those, regardless, always remember that. But also, when it comes to these types, you want to also, what is the refund policy? Do they list one? A lot of these imposter sites, that's kind of where they fail. They won't really list it or it'll be quite vague. Do they have a physical address listed? Real businesses have some sort of address, but a lot of scammers forget that part or leave that part out, and they don't really list any sort of address. You might not see any contact information. So a lot of times we get reports that, and it ties into this, so I'll bring up misleading social media ads because a lot of times people get to the imposter site because it started with some pop-up banner, or maybe they saw a post of something too good to be true on social media. You know, we all want that last minute item for our family members or friends that we can't find in any store. The scammers know that, so they post about it, and you think, yay, I finally got my item. And then you end up, with this imposter site. So those two tend to go hand in hand. So, first, I say be careful online what you're clicking and try to just go directly to the trusted sites you know. And so then you never even end up being led to an imposter site in the first place. But if you do end up on that site, read the fine print, make sure you understand their policies.
Really great advice from Nakia Mills with the Better Business Bureau of Detroit and Eastern Michigan. Their BBB Naughty List, 12 Scams of the Holidays, is a great article they have on their website as we speak at bbb.org. You can also follow along with them this holiday season on their social media. It is a legitimate social media page, unlike those we're talking about with Nakia. This Facebook page for the Better Business Bureau at MyBBB on Facebook. Nakia, as we're thinking about social media and the web nowadays, the fear is not only that you make a bad purchase from a nefarious site and it steals your money, or that you give to a scam, bogus charity. It's that even clicking through some of these links could end up putting your info at risk. And not all these scammers are after your money. They're after opportunities to use your information for long-term financial gain. So in that regard, what should people be aware of, and what steps can people take to protect their personal info this season?
Yeah, so I know a lot of us, nowadays, we want attention on social media. But one thing you should do first and foremost, very basic, set your privacy settings. Do you really need your account to be public? Unless you know you're a rock star or something, make sure that only your friends can see your information. So that's a helpful way to start and limit who's able to even contact you and see all those details you share in the first place. And then once you have that set up, you want to make sure when you're scrolling around, that you're not clicking on something just because it seems like some special offer or that a great thing you need or some wonderful opportunity that you just never have heard of anywhere else. So you also want to watch, for people a lot now, they'll, pretend they'll save your friend or family member's picture, and then they'll reach out to you in an inbox and tell you that they can help you get something or try to get money from you. So just be very careful on social media. And if you know your friend already had an account and you're suddenly getting another friend request for that same person, call, check with them, ask them, are you really making a new page? Because this is a good way scammers will try to trick you into giving them your information. You think it's your friend.
Nakia Mills is with us from the Better Business Bureau of Eastern Michigan and Detroit on the Splash Live today as we talk about holiday and charity scams. Very common this time of the year. We got a lot of warnings through the Michigan Attorney General's office and local law enforcement as well, keeping consumers aware as they wrap up those holiday gift shopping times and think about giving at the end of the year and as we head into 2025. Nakia, as we talk about the social media side of things and verifying all this information, those blue check marks or gold check marks or whatever you see across the web aren't what they used to be. They don't necessarily mean that these are all verified and that these are legitimate websites or entities, but even the research you suggested people get into being media literate and web literate before they make these financial decisions. What resources are available for those that maybe are more limited on time so that they can make sound decisions as quickly as possible, but have a better idea whether they're getting into something that could potentially put their money or their information at risk?
So of course, the main thing you want to do, and it's not just a plug, it's a helpful tool. Go to bbb.org and type in the name of that company because you'll be able to see right there if they're receiving complaints. what their rating is, an A plus means, this is a trustworthy company, and the interactions we've heard about, they resolve them if some issue did come up. But on the other side, if you see an F, that means people complain about them and they don't even bother to respond. So if you see that, that's something to avoid. And also in general, if you're not too sure about a company's name or even a person's name, step outside of social media and just Google that name and then put scam or reviews after it and see what comes up. A lot of times, just doing that, you'd be shocked how many times these scammers' names will come up. And then they'll just, change to a new name. So that's why it's important that we keep reporting this information if something does happen.
Lastly, Nakia, before we let you go, if someone does fall victim to some of these scams during this holiday season in Greater West Bloomfield, what are the first steps that they should take to, A, protect themselves after the fact, and B, try to track these individuals down with local law enforcement if that's even possible?
Right. Sometimes it's foreign companies and we don't even have jurisdiction to find these people. But first, you want to protect your information. If someone has gained any sort of access, you want to go through, update your passwords. And I know we complain about it. Some people are a little lazy, but please always use two-factor authentication. It is so important, and it is that extra layer that can save you. So if you didn't have it enabled, this is the time to go ahead and do that. This is the time to check all your privacy settings on your phone, on your social media accounts. And also you want to, if you think someone has got a hold of, your birth date, your ID numbers, your social security, you're going to want to go to one of the 3 credit bureaus and set up a fraud alert on your account. And long as you set up that alert on one, the other 2 credit reporting, agencies will be notified, because then that way, the next time someone tries to even get something in your name, it's going to be an alert that comes to you and you'll have to be contacted before they can even try to get credit. So then at least you have that protection. And I also would say at bbb.org/scam tracker, we created what's called a survival toolkit. So if you click in the upper right corner on that toolkit, you can explain to it what happened, and it'll ask you questions in a step-by-step process and then give you answers on what it recommends you should do as your plan of action to start the road to recovery.
More great information, as you can see on your screen on our live broadcast and on our website on civiccentertv.com. A lot of resources, searching tools, and more great advice for this time of the year as you're shopping and wrapping up the holiday gift-giving season and the giving season for charities and nonprofits, bbb.org. Nakia, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And if I may say, if it's specific to holidays, all these tips can be found very quickly and easily at a short URL, and that's just bbb.org/holidays. And thank you for your time.